Welcome to Beyond Human Perception, from the Guide for the Perplexed by Maimonides, Vegetarian, Part 2 of 2, on Words of Wisdom. Maimonides, also known as Rambam or Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, was a notable medieval Jewish philosopher, astronomer, physician, and intellectual figure. Born into a prominent family in Spain, Maimonides' path eventually led him to Morocco and Palestine until he finally settled in Egypt, in Al-Fustat near Cairo. Shortly after moving to Egypt, life-changing events prompted him to start his practice as a physician. It was not long before Maimonides became renowned in the area and became the personal physician to the Sultan Saladin, a famous Muslim military leader. He also tended to other patients, lectured before fellow physicians, and became a leader of the Jewish community, teaching and helping its members. Famous works by Maimonides include Mishnah Torah, a commentary on the Talmud, and the Guide for the Perplexed, philosophical discussions regarding theological matters. A revered pillar of the Jewish world, Rabbi Moses ben Maimon also had a significant influence on some great medieval writers and thinkers, such as Baruch Spinoza and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, and made an important impact on the medical science archives. Let us now continue with excerpts from Part 1, Chapters 31 and 32, in Rabbi Moses ben Maimon's book, The Guide for the Perplexed, where the philosopher shares further insights about human perception and reason. Chapter 31. We naturally like what we have been accustomed to, and are attracted towards it. This may be observed amongst villagers. Though they have few enjoyments and pass a life of privation, they dislike town life and do not desire its pleasures, preferring the things to which they are accustomed, to the things to which they are strangers. It would give them no satisfaction to live in palaces and to indulge in baths, ointments, and perfumes. The same is the case with those opinions of man, to which he has been accustomed from his youth. He likes them, defends them, and shuns the opposite views. This is likewise one of the causes which prevent men from finding truth, and which make them cling to their habitual opinions. Such is, for example, the case with the vulgar notions with respect to the corporeality of God and many other metaphysical questions. It is the result of long familiarity with passages of the Bible which they are accustomed to respect and to receive as true, and the literal sense of which implies the corporeality of God and other false notions. In truth, however, these words were employed as figures and metaphors. Do not imagine that what we have said of the insufficiency of our understanding and of its limited extent is an assertion founded only on the Bible, for philosophers likewise assert the same, and perfectly understand it, without having regard to any religion or opinion. It is a fact which is only doubted by those who ignore things fully proved. Chapter 32. You must consider, when reading this treatise, that mental perception, because connected with matter, is subject to conditions similar to those to which physical perception is subject. That is to say, if your eye looks around, you can perceive all that is within the range of your vision. If, however, you overstrain your eye, exerting it too much by attempting to see an object which is too distant for your eye, or to examine writings or engravings too small for your sight, and forcing it to obtain a correct perception of them, you will not only weaken your sight with regard to that special object, but also for those things which you otherwise are able to perceive. Your eye will have become too weak to perceive what you were able to see before you exerted yourself and exceeded the limits of your vision. The same is the case with the speculative faculties of one who devotes himself to the study of any science. If a person studies too much and exhausts his reflective powers, he will be confused and will not be able to apprehend even that which had been within the power of his apprehension. For the powers of the body are all alike in this respect. The mental perceptions are not exempt from a similar condition. If you admit the doubt and do not persuade yourself to believe that there is a proof for things which cannot be demonstrated, or to try at once to reject and positively to deny an assertion, the opposite of which has never been proved, or attempt to perceive things which are beyond your perception, then you have attained the highest degree of human perfection. Then you are like Rabbi Akiva, who in peace entered the study of these theological problems and came out in peace. If, on the other hand, you attempt to exceed the limit of your intellectual power, or at once to reject things as impossible which have never been proved to be impossible, or which are in fact possible, though their possibility to be very remote, then you will not only fail to become perfect, but you will become exceedingly imperfect. Ideas founded on mere imagination will prevail over you. You will incline toward defects and toward base and degraded habits, on account of the confusion which troubles the mind and of the dimness of its light, just as weakness of sight causes invalids to see many kinds of unreal images, especially when they have looked for a long time at dazzling or at very minute objects. Respecting this, it has been said, "Hast thou found nectar? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith, and vomited." Our sages also applied this verse. How excellent is this simile! In comparing knowledge to food, the author of Proverbs mentions the sweetest food, which has the further property of irritating the stomach and of causing sickness. He thus fully describes the nature of knowledge. Though great, excellent, noble and perfect, it is injurious if not kept within bounds, or not guarded properly. It is like the sweetest food which gives nourishment and is pleasant when eaten in moderation, but is totally thrown away when eaten immoderately. Therefore it is not said, "Lest thou be filled and loathe it," but "lest thou vomit it." The same idea is expressed in the words, "It is not good to eat much nectar," and in the words, "Neither make thyself overwise. Why should thou destroy thyself? Keep thy food when thou goest to the house of God." The same subject is alluded to in the words of David. "Neither do I exercise myself in great matters, or in things too high for me," and in the sayings of our sages, "Do not inquire into things which are too difficult for thee. Do not search what is hidden from thee. Study what you are allowed to study, and do not occupy thyself with mysteries." They meant to say, "Let thy mind only attempt things which are within human perception, for the study of things which lie beyond man's comprehension is extremely injurious, as has been already stated." This lesson is also contained in the Talmudical passage which begins, "He who considers four things," etc., and concludes, "He who does not regard the honor of his Creator." Here also is given the advice which we have already mentioned, namely, that man should not rashly engage in speculation with false conceptions, and when he is in doubt about anything or unable to find a proof for the object of his inquiry, he must not at once abandon, reject, and deny it. He must modestly keep back and, from regard to the honor of his Creator, hesitate from uttering an opinion, and pause. This has already been explained. It was not the object of the prophets and our sages in these utterances to close the gate of investigation entirely, and to prevent the mind from comprehending what is within its reach, as is imagined by idle people, whom it suits better to put forth their ignorance and incapacity as wisdom and perfection, and to regard the distinction and wisdom of others as irreligion and imperfection, thus taking darkness for light and light for darkness. The whole object of the prophets and the sages was to declare that a limit is set to human reason where it must halt. Do not criticize the words used in this chapter and in others in reference to the mind, for we only intended to give some idea of the subject in view, not to describe the essence of the intellect. Wise viewers, we appreciate your kind presence for today's words of wisdom.